This demonstration will be for the digital fabric design. So before we start designing our fabric and putting it together in the computer, you will need to create a library of motifs for you to pull from. So this is a folder that I created on my computer, and I've got individual motifs that will make up the pattern or print of my design. So in order to make this library, we're going to go through a couple different avenues or options that you have for making your motifs. The first option is Illustrator. So coming into Illustrator, you're welcome to create a blank page and then use all of your tools over here on the left to draw your motif. And in this one, you have nice editable layers. You can layer up colors and shapes. So this one is really nice. I prefer Illustrator over the other methods or programs. So these are different letters that I created for my daughter's name, and I'm going to be using these in the design of my fabric. So once you've got your motif drawn out here, you will just say File, Save As. And for Illustrator, you can just save it as an Adobe Illustrator file in your folder. So I've got it in my fabric design folder. And then just name it whatever you want to name that particular motif. Save it as an Adobe Illustrator file, and then it will have a transparent background automatically. So one thing that's very important for all of our motifs is that they have a transparent background whenever we bring them into our fabric. So Illustrator is your first avenue. Your second avenue is Photoshop. So again, you can start with a blank page and draw over here if you're more comfortable drawing in Photoshop than you are Illustrator. Another really good thing to do in Illustrator or Photoshop either is if you have a digital drawing pad that hooks up to your computer, that could be really useful at this point where you could just hand draw in the computer. And you could get some different effects with that versus just using your mouse. And I believe the computer lab on campus has those drawing pads as well. So if you want to go on campus and use those, you are welcome to. So draw out your shape in here or your motif in here, whatever it may be. And then for this one, for Photoshop, you're going to do File, Save As. And for this one, it needs to be a PNG file, PNG. So that will allow it to have that transparent background. And then again, just title that whatever you may and save it into your library folder. Okay, so those are two different ways that you can get a motif. Another way is in Photoshop. If you bring in an image, so this can be an image, a photo that you've taken, a hand drawing that you've done. You can do a hand drawing on paper and scan it into the computer. Any sort of image that you want to bring in, and you're trying to delete this background. So we're going to go through this with this sample image on how to delete your background. So bring in your image, open it up in Photoshop, and then the first thing I'm going to do is unlock my background layer on my layers tab over here and rename it whatever I want to name the motif. So I'm going to name this sun. And then I'm going to create another layer. So go down here to your plus sign, create another layer, put that underneath your motif. And then we're going to fill that bottom layer with a very bright color. So take your paint bucket over here on the side. It's under the gradient tool. So if you need to hold down and select the paint bucket tool, I'm going to, with that bottom layer selected, I'm going to select a very bright color and then fill that layer. So you should see over here on your layers, it's filled with that bright color. Okay, now we're going to go over to our background erasing tool. So underneath your eraser, you should have your background eraser tool. Select that. You can enlarge the size of your brush if you want to be able to take out larger areas of your background at a time. And then I'm going to sample my background color. So in this case, my background color is only one single color, a flat white. So I'm able to select that single sample, so sample once tool here, and click on that white. It's going to sample the white, and from then on, anytime that I erase, it will only erase the white. If your background has multiple colors, maybe it was a hand drawing that you scanned in and it has some shadows, you can mess with the tolerance on this tool. So the lower your percentage, the less it will erase at a time. If you up your tolerance and you selected a white background, anything that is maybe cream or very light gray, it will also erase. So some of those shadows it would erase as well. So mess with the tolerance on yours and see what works best for your image to erase. You can also do the continuous sampling tool. So this is the one up here to the left. But that one will continuously see what color is underneath your eraser, and it will continue to erase that color. So again, that's good if your background has multiple shades and your foreground is a completely different color. So let's say I had a background of white with some shadows, but my foreground is bright red. So it's not going to confuse those two colors. Then I can continuously select the background and select all and delete all of those shadows. I'm just going to do the single sampling. Click in my white space once. Oh, I might have to put my brush size down a little bit. It's not erasing for me. Oh, that's because I was on my background layer. Okay, so make sure that you are on your foreground layer. And then now I can do my single sampling. There we go. Now it's working for me. Okay, so once I've sampled that white color once, I can up my brush size if I want and continue, and it will only erase that white color. So you see I can go right over my motif and it is leaving that black and yellow behind. So go ahead and erase your full background. So those purple areas, that layer below that was the bright color, shows me what is still left of my background. Okay, once you've got your background fully erased, there we go. Now I can take that under layer and turn it off, and that'll kind of show me what's left over of my motif. And then if I'm happy with that, I can go ahead and delete that underneath layer. So I'm just left with my motif with a transparent background. Now to save this one, again, I would do File, Save As, and save it as a PNG file. Okay. So that is our third avenue for creating a motif. The last avenue is using the internet. So going over to here, I have a couple different websites to recommend to you. The first is called rawpixel.com. This is my favorite of the three that I'll show you. And that is because it has a free library for you to choose from. So you can select that free tab at the top and then look for PNG files. So again, those are going to be the ones with the transparent background. Also vector files. That is the type of file from Illustrator that has that editable line with a transparent background. So either of those, vector or PNG, you're welcome to pull from there, download these, and then you can use them in your design. The good thing about Raw Pixel is if you find a design that is premium that you have to pay for this one, if you upgrade, it's only $3 a month. So you could just pay for a single month, download what you need, and then cancel your subscription. So not super expensive. And then we've got pngtree.com. So this one has free PNG images as well. And you can search for whatever type of image you may like and use those. So those are able to be downloaded royalty free as well. And then the last one is favepng.com. Same sort of deal as well. So look in all of those and see if there's anything that you might like and you want to use. Okay, now let's go back to Photoshop. Okay, back in Photoshop, we are going to start creating our actual repeat for the design of our fabric. So I'm going to go to Create New. And then in the pixels, I'm going to choose a square. So I'm going to do 800 pixels by 800 pixels. You want it to be a high resolution for printing on fabric. So 300 pixels per inch is great. The absolute minimum that you can do is 150. And then for Spoonflower, which is the website that we will use to ultimately print these fabrics, they prefer RGB color. So make sure that you're not on CMYK color. You want to be on RGB color. And then you can say create. Okay, and now I've got this square that is going to become the repeat of my fabric. So I'm going to go to my background and first give the background some color. So unlock my background layer, bring in some color. So do my paint bucket tool again, select the color that I want and drop it onto that layer. And then I can go ahead and lock my background layer again. Okay, now I'm ready to start bringing in the motifs for my design. So I'm going to go over to my folder that I created, and I can bring in more than one motif at a time. So if you select more than one, let's see, I'll bring in maybe these. Okay, and then I'm just going to drag them into Photoshop. It will allow me to edit one at a time. So it will file in one at a time. It wants you to transform this so you can bring it down to the size and shape that you want. And then hit enter, or you can also hit the check mark here at the top. That will put that one where you left it, and then you can go on to the next motif and start editing. The good news is, so you see how it's bringing in one at a time as I hit enter for each of those motifs. Okay, so go through all of the motifs that you selected and edit those into the shape and design that you want. Go back to my selection tool. Okay, I want this unicorn to be kind of the main part of my design, so I'm going to bring it forward. And then the good news is that even after you have transformed it, if you just select that motif, you can hit Command T or Control T, depending on the type of computer you're on, and it will allow you to transform it again. So this is going to be kind of the center of my design. So just play with those motifs and get them into the pattern and design that you want, making sure not to touch the edges at this point. So you'll see that I am putting these all on here, but right now I am not letting any of my motifs touch the edges of my page. Okay, once you are satisfied with this portion of your design, we are going to merge our layers. So select all of the layers over here that have a motif on them, and then right click, and we're going to scroll down to merge layers. Now, the next thing we're going to do is offset our pattern so that we can create our repeat that will match up on the edges. So I'm going to go to Filter, Other, Offset, and then our original, my original image started at 800 pixels by 800 pixels. So now I need to select half of that. So I'm going to enter in 400 pixels by 400 pixels here. Oh, and select wrap around. There we go. So make sure that wraparound is selected, and then you'll see that it divides my design into 4 and puts it on those 4 corners. So now as I tile this, my unicorn should match up and create a full image. So once you've got that done, hit OK. And now I'm going to bring in more motifs to fill in this blank space that I have here. Okay, this is the absolute most girly fabric you can imagine. So once you are satisfied with your design, you are going to merge your layers again. So select those layers over on the right that have all of your motifs on them, and then again, just go down to merge layers. I'm going to go ahead and merge my background as well. Okay, now I'm going to turn this into a print. So I'm going to go to Edit, Define Pattern, and name your pattern. So this is going to be my ooh, I forgot to put her name on there. How could I do that? So let me pull in this one last design. There we go. See where it fits in. Oh my goodness, this is going to be so colorful. There we go. Okay, now merge again because I added one more layer. And then edit and define pattern. Name it. If I could type. There we go. And now we are going to test this print to make sure that it truly matches up and tiles on the edges. So I'm going to File, Create New. And I'm going to create a much bigger space for this one. So I'm going to do 20 by 20 inches. And then I'm going to go to Edit, Fill. And if you go to the drop-down pattern and then select Custom Pattern, and you can select that version. I've done a couple practices on this one. So select the version of your pattern, and then you can see there where it tiles together and should meet up on those edges. Okay, and if it's not meeting up quite right, we'll need to do something to to fix it. It may have been something with the pixels whenever you were doing the offset on your original design, or whenever you're doing the offset filter. If we didn't enter in those pixels exactly right, half of what the original pixels of the image are, then it may not be tiling together perfectly. So go back and check that. Okay, so as long as your image is tiling together the way that you want it, then you are good to save it. So just X out of this test print here. And then for your print that you created, do File, Save As. And again, you want this to be a PNG file. So Spoonflower prefers PNG or JPEG. We'll go ahead and stick with our PNG, and this will be my final print, and save it. Once you have your print saved, you are ready to go into Spoonflower and begin submitting your file. Okay, so in Spoonflower here, I'm going to go to Design and Sell. So this is spoonflower.com. Go into Design and Sell, upload your design. And then here, acceptable formats are TIFF, JPEG, PNG, and a GIF. Again, they prefer JPEG and PNG, and it must be at least 150 pixels per inch, so DPI. So choose your file from here. Confirm that you have the copyright to it. So that's just saying that you made this original design, that you didn't just pull an image off of the internet and print it exactly how it is. So I'm going to say, yes, I own the rights, because anything that I pulled off the internet, I edited and turned it into an original design. Upload my file. Once my file is fully uploaded, it will come in here and it will show you your tiled image. So mine feels a little bit messy because I overdid it with all the motifs. But you will want to do the basic tiling. So for this particular method that we did to create our print, we tiled it with using the basic tile. Again, there are different methods where you can change, but if I try and change it to a different type of tiling, my edges no longer meet up. So for yours, you will need to do a basic tiling method. And then you will go ahead and select your fabric. So they have a wide selection of different types of fabric that you can print on. You're welcome to select whichever one you like. For your sample, it depends on, for the size, it depends on how large your repeat is. So if you go with a smaller repeat, you can go ahead and just do a fat quarter, which is 21 inches by 18 inches. I want to be able to see your image repeated and see those edges where it matches up. If you just do a test swatch 8 by 8 inches, that will most likely not be big enough to actually show me where your edges are meeting up. So at least do a fat quarter. If not, you can do a full yard if you have a much bigger repeat. So select that, and then you're going to say add to cart. And then over here, you can go ahead and check out. So it's not super expensive. They may have coupons online as well if you want to look for a promo code or something online. But you'll go ahead and check out. And then through that process, you'll enter in your shipping address and all of that, and they will ship you your finished sample once it has been printed.